Get started this evening. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's good to see everybody. Um, Glad we're all here. Glad we're all safe. I'm assuming that Monday was Monday, right? Because, yeah, because that's what Monday does. And sometimes Monday is Monday like they ain't never Monday before. Um, before we get started this evening, I want to do a couple housekeeping things. So we're getting ready and we're making preparations for our takeover Sunday, which is the fourth Sunday in April. Um, just in case you're not aware, each fifth Sunday, previously we've done it where each fifth Sunday was kind of like a youth or children takeover. This year we're doing it where each fifth Sunday is specified for each generation. So if you were here in January, you saw like Bridge, they had their takeover and it went well, but because it went well, like they have been feeling so good and talking like big mess to everybody else, and y'all, we can't get showed up by them, right? So one of the purposes of Takeover Sunday is to have our generation represented in every aspect, every facet of the service, and we kind of realized that we don't have anyone from Renew in the greeters and usher space, and so we kind of need people in that space, and so if you're interested in joining that ministry, we ask that you send an email to scole@afmbc.org. We got a few. We got some, but we need more. We could always use more. It's like sleep. No matter how much you get, you can always use a little bit more. It's the same kind of principle. I was going to say something else, but I forgot what it was, so that means it's not important. So we'll go ahead and we'll get started this evening. So this month, I'll let you do it. What have we been talking about this month for those that have been here for a couple weeks? Growth. Exactly, guys. Exactly. We've been talking about growth. We're going to, wait a minute. Let me do this. Any first timers? Could you I know some of us are still eating. I can see one. We got a couple more. Good. Welcome. 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 Y'all, can we welcome our people who are here for the first time? This is a safe space. We got a little bit of everybody. It takes all kinds. We a church. Everybody's here, and we a church in Oak Cliff, and we're going to see how Oak Cliff we are in a minute. But yeah, so welcome. We've been talking about growth. The purpose of this space is for us to kind of come together so that we can not only grow in Christ, grow in community. So this month, we've been looking at the first half of that, growing in Christ. We're going to wrap that part up tonight. And so in our usual fashion, we got a little bit of an icebreaker. Throw my keynote up there, Paul. Thank you. And so fill in the blank. These are all nostalgic. Scream out the answer in blank, blank, born and raised. West Philadelphia. On the playground. Yep. Where I spent most of my days, chilling out maxing. Okay, I'm going to stop us. All right, moving with your auntie and uncle. Good job, guys. Good job. Now it's good. Hey, thanks, guys. It's good not just because we all started singing it, but because we started off on a couple different tempos and we all just came together. See how the good Lord works? It all worked out. Okay. All right. Next one, a little more churchy. Someone asked a question. There we go. All right. Another youth choir one for the churchy children. God of mercy, God of love. There we go. John P. Key. Yep. Rain on us. Nice little classic. It's got a whole drum solo. It's got a couple of them. The song is 7 minutes long. Praise the Lord. All right. A little less churchy. It's 6 o'clock. There's no Greg with a street to rock. Yeah, good job, guys. Good job. All right. Let's think movies now. Classic film. Ain't nobody. You were very ready. No judgment. All right. Shout out to the Temptations. Next question. Wait, what happened? Y'all good? Okay. All right. Jonathan, you over there shaking the table? Wow. 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 Okay. All right. Two questions. Are the rims big? Lean back, right hand on the pine wood. Cream on the end. Oh. We only wanted to sing John P. Key. That's fine. Okay. All right. TV shows. This one's a little older. Turn on the light from heaven, Lord. I thought y'all were going to leave me out there on my own. I thought y'all were going to leave me out. Ironically enough, if you had to write today's date, you know that today is 227. That's a whole different show because this is Amen. Yep. All right. You said what? Disney. Call me, beat me. All right. Same station, different show. You and me will always be tight. All right. All right. Let's see. When did I put that one in? All right. Blank blank taking over for the. I feel like a whole lot more people knew the answer, but just didn't want to say it. But that's okay. This is a safe space, friends. We're good. Ooh, all right. I don't want to grow up. Okay. All right. Last one, I believe. I get to be the best I can be. See, now, I wasn't even going to put that in there, but they told me y'all would know that, but not everybody knew it. I'm not from Dallas. I don't know what the favorite song phrase is, guys. Okay, y'all do know it. Good job. You're right. Okay. All right. Yeah. So, fun fact. I just learned about that song today, like literally, as in a few hours ago, like when the sun was up. Because, like, the folks around here had to tell me about that. I didn't grow up here. But, so that's why I got the wrong line. Sorry. Don't stone me afterwards. All right. This next one these next couple ones don't have a right answer. So let's just scream out the first thing that comes to mind. As long as it's appropriate for church, praise the Lord. All right, the thing I miss the most about being a kid is, okay, I heard recess, what else? No bills, what else? Summer break, yes, 3 months of just doing nothing. Free food, naps, yes. Someone made you go to sleep in the middle of the day, every single day, and now you just gotta like try and find one whenever you can. What else? Blockbuster? I have not heard that name in ages. Okay. What else we got? All right, cool. All right, next. Blank is the toughest part about being an adult. You said what? What in bills? Having bills, absolutely. Everything? Being an adult is the toughest part of being an adult. Okay, that's fair. Responsibility, yes, because now you got to make all the decisions. Yeah, that's the tough part, right? Like, it used to be you didn't have to plan for. You said what? Well, yeah, but it used to be that growing up, everybody made the decisions for you, right? You didn't have to figure out what you was going to eat every single day. Yeah, like you didn't have to figure out what it was like to pay bills for the most part, right? All of the major kind of decisions were all kind of mapped out for you, right? So as we talk about this last kind of segment on growth, we want to talk about the fact that growth in and of itself is a decision. There's some aspect of growth that like we don't really have a choice about, right? If you're born and you keep eating food, eventually, like nobody sitting in this room buys 5T clothes for themselves, right? Because your body has just naturally grown. It's an element of growth that you could not control, right? We don't wear the same shoes that we wore in first grade, or not the same size shoe that we wore in first grade, right? Because your body naturally grows. Some pieces of growth happen whether or not you want them to, because that's just the way it is. Things will never be the same. But there are some elements of our growth that we have to decide to do, right? So that's what we're going to get into tonight. So let's look at Hebrews 11. Rather, not Hebrews 11. Hebrews chapter 5, starting at verse 11. Hebrews chapter 5, I think everybody good. Nobody's sitting alone. And if you are, we can make those necessary adjustments. Hebrews chapter 5, we're going to start at verse 11, and we're going to read all the way through the second verse of chapter number 6. It's all one paragraph, one kind of congruent thought. So that's what we're going to read together tonight. So as you're looking at that, take a few minutes at your tables, talk about, the things that we normally talk about. So the background, the author and the audience, the summary, what's happening in that passage, the invitation, what are we being called or invited to do, and then challenges and confusions, like what are some questions that come up for you, what are some things that make living the things that we're reading about impossible to do. So let's take a few minutes to read amongst ourselves, discuss at our tables. We'll get back together and we'll talk through some more stuff, and then we will conclude our time together. All right, so let's take about a little north of 10 minutes and start reading and talking through all of our stuff. Wow. All right.
You did that?
I did.
So who did?
The Lord.
By way of...
Straight Jesus. Is it really? We'll take about 5 more minutes and then we'll come back together. 5 more minutes, guys. All right, guys. All right. All right. Let's come on back. Let's come on back. Let's come on back and let's talk a little while. All right. So we've had a chance to read. We've had a chance to talk. Background, context. Deborah Cox, how do we get here? What's going on here? What do we know about the context of the book of Hebrews and this chapter, this block? If we know nothing, that's fine too. We're all here to grow together. You got nothing? So, you said what? Yes, yes. The writer is talking to Christians. The book of Hebrews is an interesting one for a couple different reasons. But this book primarily is written so that the writer can show what I'm calling the supremacy of Christ, right? That Christ he starts the book off by saying that Christ is greater than the angels, chapter 1. Next chapter is greater than the ones who delivered the law, greater than the law itself. And in this particular block, he's talking about how Christ is greater than their previous understanding of what priesthood means. Because this block, this paragraph starts with the phrase about this or about these things, right? That's in the first verse or the first words of verse 11. Well, these are the things that the writer's referring to. That he's laying out a specific argument, especially early on in this portion of the book, to talk to them about how important Christ is and how much better Christ is than some of the previous kind of rules and rituals that they've had that they've understood or that they've practiced before their conversion. So this book is kind of primarily written to show how Christ's sacrifice deals with not just our past sins, but our present and our future life. This becomes important because if you read the book of Hebrews later on, one of the main thrusts is to, or the main emphasis is to kind of hold on to what you got. But sometimes you can't really hold on to what you got until you know how valuable it is in the first place. And so this is the author laying that groundwork to make sure that they understand the value of the Christ that they have so that they know not to lose it. Make sense? Okay. All right. Let's talk about author and audience. What do we know? The author's unknown. Yes. Yes. What else? Author's unknown. Yes. What else? Yes. It's written to Hebrew Christians. So book of Hebrews is like a good Drake or a good Nicki Minaj lyric in that we're not really sure who wrote it. Shout out to Quentin Miller. Because of its tone and how it's structured, most people assume that it's Paul, right? Because it's got that same kind of style that Paul has. But because of some of the things that are mentioned in the book and the timeline and trying to put everything together, most people kind of think, well, it sounds like it might have been written after Paul died or sometime in that space between Paul's death and then the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem in around about 70, after 70 AD or after the Common Era. So because of that, some people think it's Barnabas, one of Paul's students, Silas, another student of Paul, or Luke, because Luke has traveled with Paul and wrote, that first volume, Luke Acts. And this kind of has that same sort of style to it. We don't really know. We don't really know who wrote it. We're also not really sure who the letter is addressed to specifically, because it just kind of just says Hebrews. It doesn't have a geographical kind of destination attached to it like the letter to the Corinthians does or the letter to the Thessalonians does, because those were written to essentially these major churches that existed in the city. As far as we know, like Tay mentioned, we know it's written to people who at one point were Hebrews but converted to Christianity. Some people think this audience is a bunch of priests who converted. Some people think that it's a small church or a small community of Hebrew Christians. And while the exact audience is unknown, we do know it's written to Hebrew believers who are being pressured externally to give up their Christian distinctives. What that means is, so culturally, you got to understand one of the things about a Jewish identity is not just that it's a religious thing, but it's a cultural thing as well, right? That there are certain things, certain practices that they do that kind of make them, right? And I'm not trying to speak, disparagingly or anything like that. But at the time of their conversion, you have these Christian people who kind of grew up in one context and that's all they knew. And now they got this Jesus thing. And because of this Jesus thing, it caused them to do some things a little bit differently. And when you do stuff different, you don't always fit in with the people that you used to fit in with. Sometimes when you take your faith seriously, it causes you to stand out a little bit more, right? It makes some relationships uncomfortable. And it's easy to say that, right? Because we hear stuff like that all the time in religious spaces and in church. But it's hard to live. I mean, if all the people you were kicking it with don't want to kick it with you no more. All the people you were used to going to brunch with, the phone stopped ringing, your inbox gets dry. It's a difficult thing sometimes to live in a tense space like that, where a decision that you made that's for your own betterment now causes you to lose out on people that you were once close to. No matter how strong we were, sometimes it still hurts because we're still human, right? So they're living with all of this pressure to the point where there's sort of this vacillating thing where it's like, should I stay, should I go, what do I do? And this letter is kind of written to kind of tell them to hold on to the thing that you got, right? So that's the overall background. That's the larger kind of backdrop of what's going on. So summarize it for me. What's happening here in your own words in the block, the little block that we read, 5:11 through the opening of chapter 6. What's happening? What's the author saying? You said it seems like a chastisement. Okay. What else? What's happening here? You can't what? You can't have a kid's meal forever. That's true, except for me, I'm a child of God, and as long as they are cheaper than the adult ones, I'm going to buy them. I heard somebody else. I am a child of God. Yes, Kendra, go ahead.
I think that I'm not gonna say I'm a little confused because I am. I'm a lot confused. But
Okay, fair.
I think because when it starts off at 11, when it says since you have become dual of hearing, it kind of makes me question whether or not at some point, based on what you were saying, they were all excited and ready for it, and they probably were in a space where they were extending and growing, but then they reverted backwards because now they're dull of hearing. And I was trying to understand some of like commentary from David Guzik, and he was saying that when they talk about like dull of hearing, it's not like their physical hearing, but it's like a heart issue, like a spiritual part. And so now, if you're going back to talking about now you need milk, not the solid food. So to me, that means at some point you were growing and you were maturing in the space, and now you're going backwards. But let's get back to basics, like no matter.
Okay, I like Yo Gotti. I like it. Somebody else at y'all's table was trying to say something a couple times. I heard somebody trying to say something. No. That was you? Oh, and then you raised your hand. Okay, all right, sorry. All right, all right, so we got, sounds like a chastisement. You can't stay on kids' meals forever. The devil is a liar. And going back to the basics. What else? What else do we have in terms of summary? Preparation. Say more.
It just sounds like he mentioned, or whoever mentioned, you need solid food. And he was trying to deter them from milk to solid food. Well, on milk, you can't really get through life on just that anymore. So kind of like sounds like preparation, he's preparing them for whatever life.
Okay, so a preparation for whatever is coming ahead. Yep, okay. Any other words in terms of summary? We're doing good. Yes, ma'am.
So I feel like it's saying that they've been at surface level for so long. In chapter 5, verse 12, it says you've been believers for so long that you ought to be teaching others. Instead, you need someone to teach you. So in order to teach, it's like you have to understand the word. And they've just been on that surface level of reading, but not actually applying and understanding to the point where they can then teach someone else.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. There's sort of this basic kind of understanding where we've been comfortable, and you've been here so long, like, you ought to know what's going on. You know what I mean? Like, that's almost like you getting in your car and needing the GPS to guide you to the place that you've been living at for years. Right? Because you go there every day. At some point, At some point, some of these lights need to look familiar, guys. Yeah, go ahead, Jess.
I think that has a lot to do with like confidence and like a lot of times, I know me growing spiritually, I've learned, it's not about me being confident in Jasmine, but me being confident in God, like in me. So a lot of times, moving on means like we're not trusting ourselves, we don't need to trust ourselves. You know what I'm saying? So being stagnant has a lot to do with, like you said, being comfortable with what you can do, what your flesh can do, like what your human self can do, instead of moving on and trusting God, like to go further.
Yeah, because I think, and that's a good point, because a lot of times we honestly, if we're honest with ourselves, we don't go beyond the things that we can control. Because we can control, once we can control stuff, we know everything that happens within our little box, right? So we don't have to worry about anything surprising us. Because we know where everything is and when it's all going to happen. And then when God says, hey, let's go out a little bit farther. Whoa. I don't know what's out there. You know why a lot of us will never be like deep sea divers? Me? Okay, I'm a lot of us. Because I don't know all that's down there.
But see, that goes to what I always say, and I tell anybody who I see is procrastinating, I always tell them, your procrastination is the assassination to your destination. And until you stop procrastinating, you're never going to get where you need to be because you're holding yourself back through your own fears, your own limits, your own boundaries that you have set. And so until you get past that, you're going to assassinate everything that's ahead of you that you're supposed to be accomplishing, all because of fear or a hesitation or a limit. And so that's what he's saying in this scripture of you should be further, but because you're procrastinating, because you're afraid or you're feared or whatever the case is, you're holding yourself back from the endless boundaries that I have set before you of everything that you're supposed to be achieving.
Exactly. Like, don't she sound like a travel speaker? I'm sorry, I had to. Go ahead.
It's kind of piggyback off what Janet and what she just said. Basically, like I kind of feel like sometimes with when it comes to God, I kind of feel like a whole lot of who we talk to, certain people, we're reminded of our fears when we first. So piggybacking off fear, I kind of feel like if I didn't know Him, and we were having this talk about God, to also add what Jasmine said, if I'm not so confident within the God within me, and He's on talking. And he telling me why he don't necessarily believe in God or the word, his fear could spark the fear within myself. And that could keep me from teaching other people the way I should be teaching people. And it could make me revert back from silent to me because that's what was comfortable. And I was fed, if that makes sense. Like God was feeding me. God was the breastfeeder of my milk portion. And I got to feed myself with the solid food. And I got to check that. So when I read this, it definitely was convicting. It's definitely convicting because we can't just go and teach when we want to go and teach. We can't do it when we're comfortable and only on the days we're comfortable. Sometimes teaching is going to go beyond the fundamental parts of confidence, or just knowing the impact. Because if I don't allow His Spirit to scare me and revert me back, I just may be able to say this. I just may be able to. So, thank y'all for going forward with the beginning.
Thank you. All right. So let's move to the invitation. What is this passage calling or inviting us to do? How do we apply the stuff that we read? Yes, sir.
I feel like these scriptures that we read was telling us that not only we get complacent with just being where we at, there's more that we can be doing in Christ.
Mm-hmm.
There's more ground to cover because we're supposed to be walking in salvation. There's more that you can become. Higher heights and deeper depths in Christ. That's what I can say that because He can do more with you when you put yourself in front of Him. I feel like we get complacent, and that's the milk part of us. That's when we get used to the little stuff. But if we seek more, God can make it to more that we mature. That we can feed off of Him and start growing. So it's a process.
Absolutely. There's more. I think a lot of times our appetites and our satisfactions are a matter of our capacity, right? I would be a fool if I brought a newborn in here and gave that baby the food that we ate at that table, because their stomach can't handle it. Their stomachs can only handle so much. And because of that, they have a little bit of the bottle and now it's like I'm full. Whereas as a full-grown man, if you put a baby bottle in front of me and say, this is your whole meal for a couple hours, I'm going to look at you and maybe say something, because who you talking to? You know what I mean? Because when we have the capacity for more, our appetite grows. The two are related, right? Because after a while, you realize that the bottle don't fill up that baby like it used to. Yeah, they'll tell you, this isn't filling me up like it did last year. There's more of a capacity that I have. And because I have the capacity for more, I have to start eating stuff that's going to fill that capacity. Yes, sir, Ian. Yes, yes. Yes. It does. That makes a lot of sense. The same plate that fills up one person might not fill up the other. And just because it fills somebody else up, if you're trying to keep up with somebody else, you'll overfeed yourself. And you're going to get sick. Exactly. Exactly. It doesn't make you a failure just because you don't line up to whatever. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Go ahead.
Because what Ian just said right there, with the teaching part, I want to make sure I'm like but when we teach, it is to make sure y'all that like you don't force people to be person.
Yes.
Because sometimes our example on how we eat, on how we digest the word, is definitely going to be an encouragement for them to be able to eat what they really have. And sometimes, like we be hungrier than we eat, so we only eat little bit, which is and that could be our friends around us. Like they're not really understanding the word to really eat and get full off of it. So our example is definitely going to help them get full. And us forcing or just tending to our own meals is definitely going to be an example like how they can just eat like at their level.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Anybody else on this side? Because I don't want this side to like just kind of take over the whole conversation. Anything else in terms of invitation? What else is the text calling, inviting us to do? Yes, ma'am.
I feel like it's kind of asking us to like boldly share the gospel, like don't be afraid of it. I guess it's saying like first, like make sure you're mature enough, make sure you know the word enough to be like sharing the gospel to other people, and then once you get to that level, then you start like sharing the gospel, whether that's like through social media or like in person, but just boldly proclaim like the gospel that you have, and whether that can be like social media or just like your life within itself. Like sometimes like you might be the only Jesus that somebody sees, so make sure that you're representing Christ as much as you can.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. There is a teaching and a sharing component to this as well. Because that's a part of our maturity. Who? Oh, you were pointing. I thought you were telling me somebody. Yes, ma'am.
I believe that in the passage, when the scripture says that if you come from milk, only that would be foolish, right? So as I'm sharing with my table, I just pretty much felt like that takes growth and maturity for you to recognize that you need more, and that you just can't make it on just one thing that works.
Sure.
And sometimes the people have the tendency to think, oh, well, because I thrive in this area, then that's just it. But we as Christians are always, we should never get to the point where we think we know it all.
Absolutely.
It should be a constant learning process until
Absolutely, absolutely. Let's go ahead because time is slipping away from me. Challenges, confusions. While you're reading this, what makes it difficult to apply the stuff that you're being invited to do? What's the thing that pops up in your mind and says, I can't do this on February the 27th, 2023 because? Or what questions come up while you were reading? Kendra, go ahead.
So when I compared the ESV to the KJV,
Okay.
and it talks about the perfection and also the teaching, so one thing that kind of stood out to me, it like internally was like sometimes, like let's say I was growing and I was doing well, but at some point I reverted backwards because I could have lost confidence. Something could have happened that made me feel like I'm not where I used to be.
Mm-hmm.
And then now, but that doesn't mean that God changed in me. That it means that I'm just, trying to work on myself, right? But sometimes we get so, I think I get comfortable at feeling like I can't try to be this Christian teacher, grow a disciple until I'm back to that person where I used to be. Like that person that was like, if I was at a 10, now I'm at a 5,
Mhm.
and I feel insecure about sharing that gospel with somebody because I'm not at 10 and I'm trying to get to perfection. But I think when I read 5 and then the beginning of 6, it's like it tells me, it reminds me that the perfection is not on this side, but just keep striving, and even in that striving to still be who He's called you to be. So I think the challenge for me is just remember, even where I am, that I can still be a disciple in. I was thinking about discipleship in your class, in your word, but thank you for all of them. But what it taught me just reading that and thinking about him and being confused is that it was like refreshing to know that it's okay if I revert back, but I can still grow and still focus on getting closer and striving and not holding personally not holding myself back. I hope that makes sense.
It did, because I hear a couple things that you're saying that could present a challenge. Number one is our own insecurity, right? It's easy to read something like this and say, ooh, I'm not really where I need to be, so let me just not do nothing at all, right? It's easy to realize that you haven't reached the goal and then overestimate your distance from the goal. And say, in other words, to say, I'm not where I need to be yet, so let me just stop moving. Because it feels like there's no sense in keep going, right? It's easy to do that. So that can be a challenge. And then that particular challenge can be strengthened by our own failure. The moments when we feel like we're making progress and then for whatever reason we stop. Because we didn't read as much of our Bible as we thought we should have that day. We didn't pray when we thought to pray. We slipped up in whatever way we slipped up, right? And if we let that, and it's easy to just kind of let that just kind of simmer and say, ooh, that's a thing, and because I got this thing, I ain't never gonna get nowhere. Because some stuff, no matter, bad news, guys, no matter how close you get to Christ, some stuff never goes away.
That's what I was gonna say, I can easily say, like what Kim was saying, dang, since I gotta go back to, in the milk, does that mean I failed? Or if I get to this level, am I supposed to just stay stagnant there and build on that? Like, am I just supposed to stay and eat, chicken instead of going to steak for a little while longer and then going to steak? Or am I supposed to go back down and start from scratch and then work all the way up? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like, is it bad to go backwards and work back up, or should we stay at this level longer and then,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what she's saying is basically everybody wants elevation, right? But with preparation for elevation, there's what we call participation.
Use your words, woman of God. Rhyme, why don't you? In this good Baptist church. I'm sorry. I told you we do a little everything here. Sorry, visitors.
But with that, you have to be able to participate in what it is that you're wanting. And it's going to be challenging. Nothing's going to be perfect. The Lord even says in the Bible that there will be, you're going to have those trials and tribulations. But be of good cheer because I have overcome. So just as He's overcome, if
Absolutely. And I think the biggest challenge comes sometimes because often the thing that is, I don't want to say undefeated, but the thing that's got the greatest victory against us is us. Because don't nobody know you like you. Don't nobody get in your way like you. Sometimes it's the internal stuff that trips us up the most, right? And it's easier, because it ain't always easy because life be lifing, right? It's easier to overcome the external stuff because I can point to it and say, that right there is the issue. Right? I can point to it and say, like, the difference between the money in my account and the money I owe them people is the issue. So give me a little bit more money, and that issue is gone. But when the issue is me, Jones Girls Escape, who can I run to? Right? You know what I'm saying? But Whitney, go ahead. Yeah. Thank you, Whitney. Thank you for that. Like, because sometimes it's not a matter of what happens to us as much as it is a matter of our perspective on it. Yep. So that stuff's gonna happen, but we got to learn how. All right, never mind. Not quoting another song tonight. Anyway, all right. So let's go over a few things, and then a few other points, kind of that some have already kind of come out in our time together that we'll discuss, and then we'll dismiss. All right. So first thing about growth and our decision, or the decision to grow, is that stagnation kills our ability to hear. That phrase in verse 11 about how the author says, I got so much more that I want to say to y'all. But it's hard to explain it, not because of the material itself, but because you've become dull in your hearing. In the original language, that word dull really means lazy. It means that some stuff is a participation trophy. Some stuff you get. Now, when I was a kid, I had a rack of trophies for a rack of stuff. Some trophies were bigger than others. Some were because you did a thing and you did it particularly well. You were the best person to do it, so you got the biggest trophy, the second best person to do it, and you got the second biggest. You were the third best person to do it, and you got the third biggest. Some trophies you got just because you were on the team and you showed up every week. And the author's saying, there are some things spiritually that you haven't gotten, not because it's not available, just because you stopped trying. I want to explain it to you. You won't be able to get it, not because I'm that deep of a teacher or because the level of or the content of it is so, you just stopped trying. How much more would we get if we just tried again? Yeah. So sometimes it's our own laziness, it's our own stagnation that kills our ability to achieve and get stuff, right? Growth also prioritizes the needs of others. He says, verse 12, because that by this time you should be teaching. The thing about teaching is that you're not the only one getting the instruction. Teaching says, I'm not having a conversation with myself. I'm finding somebody who doesn't know what I know and putting them in their best position to succeed. That I'm setting somebody else up for success because I've been given so much that now I can impart to other folks. I can find somebody else to pull up to where I am, right? Next thing is that growth requires an accurate assessment of where we are. This time you ought to be teachers. But you can't because you actually need somebody to teach you. You need milk, not solid food. Now, here's the problem. Neither one of those, to Ian's point earlier, neither one of those are bad things. It's not a bad thing to eat milk, nor is it a bad, or to drink milk, because you can't really eat milk. Sorry, guys. To have a meal that consists of milk is not a bad thing. Neither is it a bad thing to have a meal that consists of solid food. It becomes a problem when you give solid food to somebody who can only digest milk. So if I do a good thing at the wrong time, the good thing ain't good no more. And the only way that I know what I need is to honestly assess where I am. So if I get out there trying to do the solid food thing when it's milk time, to what some of y'all said earlier, I'm going to get sick. Not because the food is making me sick, but because I'm trying to eat good food at the wrong time. But I won't know that if I'm not honest about where I am. If I think that I'm farther along than I actually am, I set myself up for failure. Not because the food is intended to kill me, but because I'm just not intended to have it right now. So we have to accurately assess where we are. And then the last thing, well, not the last thing. This was the verse that was the most interesting to me, and I'm going to read it from the NRSV. It says, solid food is for the mature, for those whose faculties have been trained by practice. Hey, we talking practice, dog? Yes, practice. It is the consistency. We don't grow by doing stuff one time. Using the same eating metaphor, right? How healthy would you be? How healthy would your children be if you fed them once a week? If the people found out you gave your child one meal every week, they would come get them kids from you. Right? Because some things require a consistency. They require us to keep doing them over and over and over again. And if we're not moving forward, we fall into a greater temptation to move backwards, right? So then, not only that last thing, growth knows what to move on from and when to move on. So the opening verse of chapter 6, therefore let's go on toward perfection, leaving behind basic teaching about Christ and not laying again the foundation. The problem is not that the foundation is bad. The problem is that as great as the foundation is, there's still, in the words of Mr. Kenneth, there's more. When you moved in your house, you didn't put furniture on a foundation, right? The foundation is there to uphold the structure, which means at some point you got to build something. At some point, you have to take what's been given to you and maximize it, right? And that's what the call is. The call is to understand the foundation and be grateful, be appreciative for the foundation, because you need the foundation, because without a foundation, ain't no building standing up. And with a shaky foundation, a building will crumble, especially if it runs into adverse conditions. But while you've got a good foundation, know that the foundation is just that. That is there for you to build. It's not there for you to hoard a plot of land. It's not there for you to say, this is what I got, look at it, look at how great and how grand and how wonderful it is. It's for you to do something with it. And once you get to the place where where you realize and you appreciate the foundation, you realize that the foundation is that they're like training wheels, right? They teach you, but they also train you to travel on your own. At some point, you got to drive past your driveway. And the only way we do that is when we decide to grow. So let's we got a couple more minutes, real quick. In your own words, what do you think? What makes it difficult to prioritize the needs of others? What do you think? Why don't we do that? Why not? You said what? Yes. My issue with the crabs in the barrel metaphor, though, is that we focus too much on the behavior of the crabs and not the existence of the barrel. No, I'm saying that we never question how and or why the crabs were placed in the barrel in the first place. And we just condition, and we're only looking at the behavior of the crabs that are in this unnatural habitat. Go ahead, Tay.
Your plate is heavy. And the needs of others, you don't always know how heavy. And if you, even in helping them learn that their Dixie paper plate is even remotely close to the weight of your own plate.
Yeah.
It's hard, right? Like it's hard even to stand alongside them because it's like, well, the whole thing heavy. Like it's all heavy. And as much as I love you and I want this to not be heavy for you, this feels like mine.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just all heavy. And when life is like that and it's heavy like that, it's hard to be your best self, to be of assistance to someone.
Absolutely, absolutely. There are times when you feel stretched thin and you don't have the capacity and you feel like if I pour into somebody else, I'll be empty myself or I'm already empty. Yep, very valid. Go ahead, Shay.
I kind of feel like for me the difficulty with sometimes prioritizing needs because personally, I'm almost willing to prioritize somebody else's needs over mine. And I kind of think that's a toxic to myself. However, though, for certain people, I kind of feel like those who are not optimistic or don't have no type of positivity with whatever kind of work they got going on in their life, if I encourage you that you can or we can, but you just, well, you know what? Listen, because, you know, and that's what makes it difficult for me.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily a deep down person, you know, so I think people who are deep downers or deep down, for me, it's hard to make your priority with you. I can prioritize you by myself, Lord, I can do that, but with you.
Yeah. Sometimes it's difficult when people aren't receiving what we're giving them. Yeah, and it seems like we're doing it and not having the intended effect. Go ahead.
Before you go forward, people hurt us.
Yes.
That's why it's difficult, just for me, to prioritize, I would say family. Because when you have a different mantle, you're trying to go a different direction. It's like them knowing who we was, because they know us, our family. They hold us to what they expect us. They see us as.
Yeah.
We don't want to be, we try to move up things over the access. But it's the feelings, how they make us feel.
Yeah. And that's a real thing. Like, we get scarred and we remember who did the scarring. Yeah. And our memory sometimes kind of says, I want to, but I remember. And so I gotta put on kid gloves, or I gotta, feed you with a long handled spoon, or not feed you at all, because, yeah. What were you saying, Kai? Yeah. Yeah, you good. Yeah. All right. What are some things that help you get an honest look at where things are in your life? What are some things that help you take that honest assessment of you? Say more, Jazz. Humility.
I've always been a pretty humble person. Like I don't be, but when you really be like, bro, you ain't all that. Like when you can really tell yourself that, you can say, I need help here. And you can tell I'm not around
around a group of people that can be transparent and can be honest about their trials and their downfalls and their shortcomings, which is why we should all, I encourage all of you guys, have that discernment to share your story, but share your story because it encourages us to also be like, oh, I messed up, I did the same thing you did, or I'm having that same struggle.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're humble and you know that you can always grow more, you are, and you know that you're going to continue to make mistakes. Like that's just who we are. You know what I'm saying? But when we're just humble and we understand that we're not going to be perfect, I feel like that will help us to just be real with you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, go ahead. Humility. Thanks, Jess.
Accountability.
You said what?
Accountability.
Accountability. Okay.
Yeah, and just to reiterate what Josh was saying, like just taking an honest look at yourself and also just like, taking criticism as constructive. Like if you look back over things in your past up until now, it's like, well, noticing your own pattern. I would say that's taking that accountability. Like if you keep making the same mistake or you notice that, maybe your mom brought something up to you and your aunt, and it's like, well, that's my family. Then now you have your friends and then a significant other. Then it's like, okay, I need to really look into this and take accountability. And from there, I can just be honest with my growth. Like, okay, well, I started to take these things into account at one time. Now I've seen how far I've come. Now I see I'm not getting held back anymore. And now I see where these people were coming from, and I didn't take it in and, spew it out as disagreeing, but really taking it in as accountability in a constructive manner.
Absolutely. Everybody that's trying to help you in the hater. Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead, Mr.
Kind of piggyback a little bit off what Jasmine was saying. Have like when we have a core group of whoever your core group is, knowing that those core group of people are people who are honest and that will check you on this stuff. Because sometimes people want to surround themselves with the yes people. Oh yes, no, that's right. Oh, you're good. Knowing that it's not. So being able to like know that your core people, those people who are closest to you, you trust that they have the discernment and the willingness to, hey, sis, that no, not now. You should, and be real with you. Because
Yeah.
when you don't, that doesn't help you grow. When you just have a bunch of people guessing you, when you know, when they know what you're doing is not right, or there's an area that, even if it's not right, there's something that can probably be enhanced a bit or something like that. Surrounding when people are honest, like you said, in your core group or wherever that can share their story, it allows you to say, oh wow. Because sometimes we go through things we think it's just us. But when we have somebody, like you said, to share your story and what you've been through, you're like, oh wow, okay, but then they show you how they conquered it.
Mhm.
Conquered it. That gives you the ability to know, oh well, I can get over it. I can get through this, and make it. So I think having people I think Borderlands is really just like that humility, the accountability, and having people who are honest.
Absolutely. 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 Thank y'all for that. So what are some things that help you stay consistent? Go.
Routine.
A routine. Yes. Getting up and doing the same thing every single day and training yourself to do it every single day. I saw your hand. Yeah.
Just building off what you just said, but surrounding yourself with like-minded people who are trying to go where you're trying to go.
Okay.
Not just people who can hold you accountable to the things that you want to grow.
Having the right company, absolutely. Because if all of y'all are traveling in the same direction, it becomes more obvious when one of you is missing. Yeah. 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 What else? What are some other things that help you stay accountable? I mean consistent. I'm sorry.
Community can go with that too.
Community. Yep.
The people in place to just as much as they can say, like, sis, that wasn't it.
Yeah.
They can also be the one like, hey, bro, did you pray today?
Yeah.
Hey, bro, did you read the Bible today? Or I can tell you in Reggie, but my people say stuff like that. I can tell you that you talk to someone, man, go in your court and address it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, why do you think consistency is such a challenge? Last question.
Sometimes we do the most, we stretch ourselves so much trying to accomplish everything, want to eat the whole elephant instead of taking it bit by bit, where we can manage it in doses and then grow from it. Sometimes we have a big desire to say, we want to do all these things, like you want to lose 30 pounds in a week, so you out here working, doing 3 days, when you just need to learn how to do one and drink and keep right.
All right, thank you, Kendra. Ian, I saw.
Life is not winning, but life got hands.
Mm-hmm.
So they can get tired of fighting.
Yes.
We get tired of doing the same thing. If, even though it's necessary, you kind of feel like the fight just don't go away.
Yeah.
And it's just like you waking up every day,
And
walking out of your house fighting like all day, every day. And you feel like there's no reprieve, no time for you to breathe. It's hard.
in Greek mythology, there's a character named Sisyphus. Sisyphus is punished to eternally roll a boulder up a hill. The problem with rolling a boulder up a hill is that there's this thing called gravity. So you do all of this work to get the rock up the hill, only for it to come back down to the same hill, and you got to do it all over again. Sometimes life feels that way. That you're doing all this work to make this progress, and then boom, one thing happens, and now all of it gets undone. For whatever reason, one thread gets pulled at, and the whole garment seems to unravel. Yeah, and the discouragement that comes along with that, right? To see that all this hard work that I've been doing is now like I got to do all this again. I finished the paper, my computer crashed, I didn't save it. I got to do the whole thing over. You know what I mean? Like, that can be a frustrating thing. And if it happens frequently enough, it's enough to make you say, I don't want to do it no more. Go ahead, Rick.
What hits for me is like, I believe that sometimes when the consistency required is attached to what's going to elevate and enhance us, there'll be a challenge, or the enemy, it'll either the enemy or whatever, because we can consistently go shopping without an issue. Why is it if when it comes to like this, like as it says, if you go to read the Bible, you get tired or something like that. So I think it's when it's attached to that element, it's a challenge. You know what I mean? Right. We could go, you could go with your boo and do whatever with your boo consistently, but no issue. But when it comes to what's going to elevate and enhance us spiritually, then it's a challenge.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I feel like sometimes it can be a tactic from the enemy sometimes, because he knows, hey, in order for you to get here, it's going to require that consistency. Guess what? Let me make this facade of difficulty in that space, because we have no issue being consistent in other things.
Yeah, I hear that. I hear that. But also sometimes difficulty in the facade. What's easier, watching a few episodes of You or getting up to go run 3 miles? The You is a TV show. I don't mean like watching You an actual person. Sorry. I know. I didn't realize that sounded creepy till I thought of it. I'm sorry, guys. I promise I'm not a creep first timers. Like, no. Netflix is a show on Netflix. But the point I'm making is that sometimes brownies taste better than vegetables. Yes, sure. You develop that discipline. Yes. But initially, I'm the point I'm making is that I hear what you're saying. But it's easier to do the more convenient stuff for a reason, because the more convenient stuff is more convenient. It don't take no effort. It's nothing to do what I've always been doing, right? And so, exactly. It's so much easier to just chill and to not do it. Yeah. So, but yeah, those challenges do come. But and often the consistency is worth it. But consistency requires you to do it every day, even on the days when it don't seem like it's worth it. And when you're doing all this work and it don't seem like it, that's when it's like, you know what? I'm done. Yes, Jazz.
Sometimes it doesn't seem like it's working because we're around a lot of people. Like Ian was saying, everybody's on different levels. We see people who are doing things that we want to do or that isn't part of our routine, and we feel like, oh, well, maybe I can go back, and then we realize that's not what we were supposed to be doing. So like, consistency is a challenge because sometimes we pay too much attention to everybody else's journey.
Absolutely. Anybody else over here? I really want you all to like because I just don't. I feel like I'm ignoring you. I feel like a bad host. You know what I mean? Because I'm just like talking over there. Yes, ma'am.
I wasn't gonna say anything, but I was listening to something one day, and the preacher I was listening to, he said, typically when we make plans or we set goals or plan someone to achieve a goal, on that day it's the thing that we want to do. So we make the plan to achieve the thing that we want to do, but as a part of that plan, there isn't a contingency on what you're gonna do on the days that you don't feel like it.
Hmm.
And so we plan for the days that we feel like it, but when I don't feel like it, what's the plan for that?
Yes.
And so there's no consistency in, I feel like it today, but tomorrow, I wanna roll over and watch 3 episodes of You, because that's actually a real life decision that I make. I wanna watch 3 episodes of You, but when that's the thing that I want to do, what is the plan for that day?
Yes. Absolutely.
That helps to create the consistency, create it for the days when you don't wanna do the thing that you're trying to achieve.
That's
Grace type of, alternate something.
grace is. Thank you.
Well, and not even having an alternate thing, but, I mean, sometimes we are the sum of the decisions that we make. So if the goal is to be, because consistency is actually something I'm personally working on in my life. So if the goal is I'm gonna work out 5 days a week, on day 4, when it's raining outside and it's cold and you don't wanna go, what's the plan for that day to ensure that you still do the thing that you told yourself you were gonna do?
Mm-hmm.
Because we're really good at extending ourselves grace for things, but then grace really just becomes justification to not do the thing that we should be doing. So what are we gonna do to ensure that even though I don't feel like it, I'm still going to do the thing that I said that I was going to do?
Even when I don't feel like it. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Minister First Lady. Sorry, that's a lot of titles. Just Jennifer. Okay. Okay. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, no, this is literally just explaining what I'm doing here today. Like, if I know if I go home, I'm not gonna get this work done. I know if I can be in the atmosphere and also, like, I'm gonna talk to these people, but I'm also getting the work, I'm also getting it done. Like, I'm playing to keep the time.
See? Real life example, guys. Real life example. Real life example. All right. Where you said what? Grace, exactly. We're done. I wanted to do one thing. I kind of wanted to do it at the beginning, but that's the thing I forgot. Turns out it actually kind of was important. I want to ask: is there anyone here who's hiring or who works at a place that's hiring? Okay. Like, what do you? Because I want to make sure that those, just in case there are some of us here who have needs. Not me. Hey, Pastor Chris and Dr. Bree, we're good. Like, no, they're on camera. I want this like public record. I'm not looking for no job. I'm good where I'm at. Praise the Lord. Let the earth hear His voice. But just in case there are some gathered who might have needs and some within our community, I want to make sure we're doing everything we can. I saw a few hands pop up. Right? Some over here. Yes. What you got? And I might repeat it just for our streaming audience, so that tell me what you need and who they can contact.
Okay, so you do have to have a degree, but
Have to have.
I'm a speech therapist. So
Okay.
I work with kids who have autism, I work with kids who have speech impediments, and all that sort. But they are hiring. It's called Small Hands, Big Hearts.
Okay.
It is a traveling job, so you do travel to people's houses and daycares and everything. But you make your own schedule. So if you decide one day you don't want to work and you want to fly kids to Saturday, you do that. So it's like you make your own schedule.
Okay. Who do they contact?
Just search Small Hands, Big Hearts, and the number will come up.
Okay, so Small Hands, Big Hearts is looking for speech therapists. All right, thank you so much. And we can Google that. Yes, go ahead.
So I am a corporate recruiter.
Okay,
My job is to find people jobs throughout the United States.
okay,
They can contact me.
okay, okay. All right, corporate recruiters. Anybody else? I saw a couple. All right, let me, Judy, your hands up? Yeah.
So I work for a consulting firm, and across the country, a lot of remote jobs. So we just go on LinkedIn and look for RGP, or Resources Global Professionals, a host of jobs.
Okay. RGP, Resources Global Professionals online. Look those up. There are several jobs there. I saw. Seth, go ahead.
Yeah, I work for the state, more so the Department of Public Safety.
Okay.
They're hiring for
Licensed.
licensed permit specialists.
Okay.
You don't have to have a degree, but you do have to have a high school diploma.
Okay, so licensed permit specialist for the state of Texas, they can, who should they contact?
They can go online and they can use me as reference.
Okay, just best reference online? Okay, great.
License permit specialist.
Okay, what else? What else we got, Kenneth? Or Kendra, I'm sorry. This, yeah. Yeah, you talking now. Go ahead.
Trying to figure out how to say this, it's a lot. We're looking for engineers at Textron, get a helicopter, if you want to get a job in the aerospace industry. Let me know. Contact me, go on the website, Textron, Bell,
How you spell Textron?
TEXTRON.
TEXTRON, looking for engineers.
Or Bell Flight.
Or Bell Flight. Okay, and they're looking for engineers. Yes, sir.
Skilled and unskilled electrician.
Okay, who should they, skilled and unskilled electricians, who should they contact?
Gensler Electricity.
Gensler Electricity. GENTZLER. Okay, Gensler Electricity, skilled and unskilled electrician. Yes, Whitney? Okay, and what's the name of the medical care? I heard medical. Presidius? Okay, Presidius Medical Care. All right, anybody else? Anybody? Okay,
Our higher education at Dallas College, we have 7 campuses in Dallas County. Dallas College is always hiring for positions. You can have from an associate's degree to a bachelor's degree.
okay,
Google Dallas College.
okay. Dallas College is always hiring. Google them, look them up, and then, Angela.
I'm with American Airlines, I'm a flight attendant, but we're hiring for all positions because apparently we can't keep people, so. To be honest, like, but I mean, if you wanna be a flight attendant, that's fine too, you have to be at least 20, about to be 21, because you do serve alcohol, you do have to have a passport, they do pay for training, it is 6 weeks unpaid, if you need further information, feel free to reach out, go to AA.com, and they will let you know the different details, just don't have no felonies, if you have tattoos, make sure you cover them up for 6 weeks of training.
All right, so American Airlines is hiring for everybody. Don't have no felonies and have coverable tattoos and be 20, almost 21. Thank y'all. Like I said, I really just wanted us to you never know what our needs are as we gather together. And so if there's any way we could be a resource to each other, I kind of want us to do that. Also, I know some of us had registered for this Saturday's bowling event, but new information, stuff beyond our control, we're actually going to postpone that a little bit. But for those who registered, and we'll have an opportunity to do it a little bigger, we'll let y'all know. All right. It is 8:45. I'm sorry I held y'all a little long this evening. We usually get out a little earlier than that. Yes, ma'am. Got you. We'll keep Chelsea's sons in prayer. Okay, let's look to the Lord. Thank you all for your time this evening. We try to do our best to be stewards of that. We don't take it for granted. We try to get out here.